The feedback of my website, I received some general positive feedback on my product on the social networking site Facebook, such as a fellow media student's comment, "This looks so awesome and professional, I'm very, very impressed," as well as feedback from both a poll I constructed about the ancillary text and within another casual interview with an 18-year-old female media student. Opening with the video feedback, I first asked my interviewee about how she feels the characters in the mid-two-shot main image are represented.
Well, you can clearly see that the main girl, she's more vulnerable than the other girl, and that the other girl has more of an influence on her.
This feedback she gave me was my preferred reading of the text, and so has demonstrated to me my audience can clearly define the antagonist and the protagonist and understand that in the main image chosen, the antagonist, though placed behind the main girl, has a certain control and power over her. Similarly, I asked in my poll, how do you feel the main character is represented, as a multiple choice question, and the most commonly selected answers were the victim, nihilistic, and innocent, all traits that fit in with my interviewees and my preferred interpretation of the text, and so I feel I have been successful in the construction of my desired representation. When asked about the navigation, the girl criticised the clarity of this text.
Well, the whole thing is really unconventional and challenges other websites that have been made. But I think overall the navigation and everything, I don't think it's very clear in where to go.
This subject of navigation within my website is quite interesting, for I received largely mixed feedback within my poll also, with the majority describing it as quite easy. I struggled slightly, but 25% also saying it was slightly difficult to navigate. I could find my way around, but it took concentration. Though all of the respondents did say they could navigate the page, the slight difficulty they all discussed made this a universal concern and criticism of the product, which I feel can be identified in the navigation bar. From having received my audience feedback, it has become evident that the combination of the unconventional placement at the bottom of the page, the unconventional curling handwritten text, and the unconventional transformation of the navigation bar into a roll of film was pushing convention just too far. And so now I know, if I were to redo this, I would ensure at least one of these aspects of the navigation bar was conventional, and consequently more clear and familiar. Though based on my interviewee's next response, it would not be substituting the roll of film for a traditional and basic rectangle. I then asked my interviewee what she felt was her favoured and the most prominent element of the page, to which she responded,
I actually really like the camera, how it's been used and how the tape's coming out, and I know that's meant to be the navigation bar now, but I think, yeah, that's what really got my attention when I first looked at it.
Interestingly enough, the secondary images she discussed were also deemed a considerably eye-catching element within my poll, with 50% of the voters responding the camera and roll of film were the most eye-catching elements of my page. From this feedback, I have learnt of my audience's value of the inclusion of my secondary images. I also feel more confident now in my decision to make this page very visual through the inclusion of multiple images that take up a considerable amount of the page's space. I finally asked my interviewee what effect she felt the inclusion of the iTunes logo in the upper right-hand corner of the page, a small and one-off synergy evident of the product had.
Well, yeah, because iTunes is obviously it's a big thing. People go on it to buy very popular songs. So if the soundtracks on iTunes, that clearly shows that it's quite popular, people enjoy the music, the soundtrack, and it would probably persuade me to want to go on iTunes and listen to it.
Her positive response to the inclusion of this element, and that she told me it would make her want to go onto iTunes and listen to it, has shown me that the inclusion of this logo is very effective in the persuasion of the audience to explore around the film. My audience feedback in my poll produced a similar majority response, with 75% choosing, "Seeing the iTunes logo made me think the soundtrack of the film is reputable," and this cross-media consensus has pronounced to me that the alternative art house audience placed a strong value on the music distributor as I had originally considered, and so I was correct to include a synergy with iTunes evident on my website, for it not only makes the film appear more respectable, but it works as an incentive for my audience to digest further media surrounding the film. Moving exclusively onto polls, I also asked my audience their opinion of the layout of the page. As can be seen in my results, the feedback was entirely positive, with 100% saying the right amount of space was filled and the composition was okay or better. This audience feedback has shown me, similarly to my poster, the composition of the ancillary text is a clear strong point and that it was well received by the audience. In terms of the general usage of the handwritten typography, the feedback was again largely positive. The two most commonly selected answers being, "It works very well," or "I quite liked it." My audience feedback has taught me that the unconventional and this more risky font style I decided upon was well received and successful to the extent that I used it. I then asked my audience, "Do you feel the right number of social networking sites were included on the website?" To which 100% responded yes. The right social networks were featured, informing me that my application of website conventions was accurate and relevant. Finally, I then asked my audience 2 questions on the colours I used to establish how they felt about the colour scheme in relation to the genre and period style I was trying to construct, as well as how the colours themselves work in proximity to the other. With 75% of the votes, the general consensus was that the colour scheme clashes, but in an effective manner, which is the preferred reading I hoped my target audience would take, as I was aiming for a bold, dynamic, and controversial colour scheme similar to the colour schemes used within ID magazine, a product that shares my target audience demographic. Their majority vote has shown me that I have achieved this particular look and that my audience feel, for them, it is effective. In terms of this colour scheme's relation to the period style I tried to create in conjunction with the psychological drama I worked within, I personally feel the colours I used could be associated, though they weren't as conventional as they could be, to the genre, and that the pastel and subdued colours were quite appropriate for the style. My feedback has shown me that my audience felt similarly, with the majority votes saying the colour scheme is somewhat appropriate for the genre and traditional style, and 25% saying the colour scheme better fits the traditional style than the genre. The audience feedback I received from this poll confirmed my interpretations of this colour scheme's conventionality of these 2 elements, though I would not change them if I had the choice. I feel the slight development of convention defines my product as unique within the market, while still clearly fitting the market of period-style psychological dramas.